we're here on the allotment site, and it's February, and it has been raining almost non-stop.
Okay.
This is actually not my plot. This is my friend's plot, of Italian background, and I actually learned from him. He's quite new on the site, but I actually learned some things from him. And one of the things done here, the gurus in horticulture talk about it, but he actually did it. And here in his sort of netted area, he's done some mixed planting. Came quite natural to him. So he's got kale here, and this looks like broccoli. And he probably had Brussels sprouts over there. I didn't keep track of everything, and some cabbage. And it's all mixed together, whereas I used to do it in rows, the traditional way. And from what I saw, he got a good crop. What happened was, when he was away abroad, I managed his plot. So he had loads of spinach here, and lettuce. So again, sort of mixed planting. And if we walk, and actually he's got spinach in there, so he was a mishmash of things. That actually looks like a kind of kohlrabi from here, but he had a load of tomatoes here, running along the edge here, and squash over there, climbing up frames. So in a short time of a year, he's managed to do all of this. So quite impressive. What I wanted to talk about my Italian friend is that he's actually a natural, whereas people like me have to read and watch videos and take courses, but he just does it, and I would say his fingers are magic. These are what you're seeing there are broad bean coming through. I re-sowed because I thought the previous lot were eaten by mice probably. So they're coming through. I also have some in the greenhouse that they're coming through. I thought the heat would bring them on, well, into warmer in there. I got this idea from Charles Dowding. I wouldn't call myself a no-dig person, but I'm going in that direction. And what he talked about was this. It's actually a wormery. But what I've done is I took the top layer of this and put manure down. I do need to cover it properly to encourage more worms, and this is pretty new. He also suggested putting cardboard round the edges to keep the heat in. It's sunk somewhat because of the rain. Just playing around with it. I have to attach it to the sides, but I haven't had the time yet. You may remember over there I've got onions and garlic, so I've been trying to cope with the ground getting so sodden. An example of that is over here are the onions. Now, onions don't need to be covered, but they do rot if it gets really wet, and I did feel a few, and they did seem like they were beginning to rot. I have another lot which you'll see afterwards, which I will sow in late March, April.
Yeah.
Right, I've got this bucket where I've got weed soaking. I have heard it's a really good solution, a fertilizer. And here is ash, well, from the barbecue, because we're not allowed to light fires anymore. So I've got ash here which is soaking to dilute it somewhat, because some people say it's too strong to put straight on. I used to put it on as it is, but I saw nothing happen, but I thought I'd try it diluted. So we'll see. After a few months I'll start spreading it. In the previous video I mentioned bok choy germinating in here, and they were indeed germinating, but then I saw that it wasn't happening there wasn't any more germination. So I've learnt in life, something's not working, just stop. I just dismantled it. I mean, I have to spread it out to warm the soil here. I haven't quite got to that. When it gets warmer, I'll be doing more. I do intend to put brassica in here. It's one of the things I mentioned in the notes about rotation. It's traditional to rotate things, especially brassica and onions, garlic, and quite a few other things, because of build up of pests in the ground. Charles Dowding, the no-dig guru, has been for some years now planting in the same spot, and he claims that it's fine. I have my reservations, but I did have brassica here, some brassica here last year. When I'm talking about brassica, I'm talking about the cabbage and the cauliflowers and the Brussels sprouts. Actually, they're all one family, just like in families, people are different, as in brassica. So I'm going to, even though I had brassica here, I'm going to replant brassica here and see what happens. Someone else on the site did the same. However, I do disagree with Charles Dowding about onions and garlic. I do think you must rotate it because of the build-up of disease, and they really do get affected. Oh, the other thing is, in between the brassica you can interplant. The other thing is about traditional to plant in rows. I may not plant in rows. I may plant in differently. I may plant in circles and see what happens. I'm not quite sure. I have to think about it. But I may, certainly with lettuce and perhaps spinach, I may try that, planting differently. As you can see, there's complete chaos here. Everything's all over the place. Usually I try not to have it like that, but I've just received, a week ago, a toolbox. But it actually, having tried it, needs 2 people. And tomorrow, another plot holder who's very good on DIY will come and help me put it together. So next time you come, hopefully you won't see any tools outside, or there's enough room, no pots outside. So this is why it is as it is. Okay, I have less room now because down on the lower plot, part of which I gave up, well, most of it actually, I had 2 polytunnels, so I had loads and loads of room. Now it's all been shifted up here, and so I've got things spread out here. I hope to get some more staging to put things on, but at the moment I have to adapt. I'll talk about what's in here. I've got broad beans which I took from home because I've got a lot of seed growing at home, because I'm playing about with at home with the use of heat. What it is, people talk about grow lights and heat pads, which I've used. Well, I've used heat pads in my time, but with the state of the environment, I wanted to see what I can do without the heat pads and grow lights, just using the heat in the house and playing about with temperatures, because I also have we have a conservatory at home. So with some things like brassicas, you move them out, they don't need the heat, so I moved them into the conservatory where there's only one radiator, and these were in the conservatory and they don't need heat, so that's what's there. Down here are the onion sets, which will go in, and the end of March, I mentioned that before, April. There are down here onion sets in boxes that will go out. I put them in here again. It's a bit of playing about, and here so that they sprout, because normally when you put onion sets straight into the soil, you do cover them with netting, or it's better to cover them with netting, because birds tend to want to pull them out until they root. So that's why I've done it here. Let them sprout, then I just put them in with a dibber, which is this. Going on, put them into holes with a dibber, and so we'll see what happens with that. I've got some onion seedlings under here. Again, I need to transplant them, and normally they're kept in heat, and I'm just taking a risk and just leaving them here. They were at home. I have got aubergines and tomatoes at home in just the heat of the house and the conservatory. I just put in these. I haven't labelled them, but you can't really see much. They're pea shoots, and I've got some at home. You just knit the tops. I've just given them some to my Italian friend, and all you have to do is put them into soil or vermiculite, cover them, and they just shoot up, and you keep harvesting them quite a while. And over here it's just cabbage, spring cabbage. So I think we've just about covered most of what's in here. This is a pH meter. It's to test the soil, so whether to find out whether it's alkaline or acidic. If it's in the middle, 6 and 7 is telling me, and I measured it the other day, that my soil's okay for brassica. When I can, I use inside those black pots to build up the soil around the stem, because tomatoes do like their stems covered as deep as possible. At least that's what I found. And the shorter sticks are to support the indeterminate tomatoes, and the longer sticks are for runner beans. That polytunnel that's right at the end there, the covered polythene area, covered with polythene, was my polytunnel, and there was another one there right at the back. There was another one which I gave to another plot holder. He dismantled it and took it with his wife, took it up the top. So now another plot holder is using it. So last time I mentioned all this. It's looking rather bleak at the moment, but it will change, because I'm thinking this time, and I've got at home potatoes that are shitting with a CH. What you do is you spread them out, and you let them sprout, gives them a head start. That's the main crop. It's said now that early crop of potatoes, you don't need to do it. So what will happen down here is there are two ways of doing it. Some people just dig a hole, do a little small hole, pop the potato in. Traditional way, and I love doing it that way, and I may well do it that way, is to dig trenches. If I've got some manure, I'll throw some manure in, or maybe something else, and put early potatoes closer, maybe, and main crop further apart, maybe 18 inches. And then I'll cover them, and as they sprout, I will what's called hoe them up. because if frost comes, it will affect the tops, and so if you keep hoeing up soil, it will help protect them. Then there's the problem of blight. So I choose these days a variety that is not supposedly not affected, well, it never has with me, affected by blight. The Sarpo types. So they have quite a few different varieties within the Sarpo type, which was developed in Hungary originally. So I tend to go for those. The early potatoes aren't usually affected by blight. They're just field beans, which I'm using as a green manure, and I'll just dig them in. It's the first time I've tried it with these, and looks a bit sparse at the moment, but anyway, it was worth trying to learn from it. I thought they might even produce a little crop, but obviously not. So it is what it is. It's interesting to try it. Anyway, there will be trenches here, so I'll dig in a straight line, probably 18 inches apart. The early potatoes I'll probably put in 12 inches apart, and then the main crop 15 to 18 inches apart, to give them space. This is the ex-fire pit. We used to burn everything here, but now fires aren't allowed here on the site because of the environment. So this was a waste ground, so I discussed it with the committee, and I said, well, I'll take it over until you need it for something else, and I'll grow a few crops here. Anyone can come here and take, if they want. All my spare seeds, or some of my spare seed, I'll put in here. I did grow some chard last year, and any other crop I'll take up to the top for the food bank, because we supply the food banks in the summer. Yeah, this is chard, or the remains of the chard that I put in last year. They have been savaged by the birds. There was also spinach here. There are a few remaining onions. Over here, I just stuck them in. I've not grown them myself. I believe they are Jerusalem artichokes. But they are very invasive if they do take off. As I say, I've never grown them myself, but they spread everywhere, so I will have to contain them like bamboo. So this is my wife's raised bed. There are actually 15 raised beds here, if I remember correctly. Some of them for schools as well, further up. But this is as I said, my wife's raised bed. She calls herself a complete beginner, but actually her bed was completely full during the season. I do help her on it, but she does a lot of clearing, a lot of work here. I've shown her how to sow. And it was a learning for me, because I saw how well it did here. I was even embarrassed because she had better onions than I did last year, and then it got me to thinking, I need to go on giving up plots. I need to go in the direction of raised beds, which I've done up there. I may even put in more at some point, but it was, as I said, a learning for me how well she did here. She does have problems with squirrels and other things. The onions, we put in the onions together, You will see here a drip system. If it was just a hole, the water would go everywhere. But actually it has circular cylinders inside which break up the pressure. And in a proper system they would have a filter at the end, but we couldn't afford that. It's a bit of a mixed drip system. All the beds had drip irrigation, but most people opted not, or the newcomers opted not to have it anymore. So there's a couple of beds with drip irrigation, the rest, which I put in originally because I was asked to put it in. I still believe very strongly in it, and I have some on my upper plot. This is during the season, that's why the net is thrown about a bit now, but it's covered when there's crops in here because she is invaded by squirrels and other things. On this site the pressure all comes down here, there's less up there, and so I had to think of ways to educate people not to turn the taps full on because the pipes would burst. You can put on pressure breakers, but again that would have cost a lot of money.
Okay.
The water on this site is off. I turn it off, or sometimes with help, in December, because otherwise the frost could cause damage to the pipes that are underneath the soil. Is then turned on again around April the 1st. That's not a joke, it's turned on. On again, but it's quite a process because we have to go around the site closing taps, because at the moment all the taps on the site are open to let out the air that's in the system. This is not my plot. I just stopped here because it caught my attention in this rainy sodden season. You got garlic here and further up onions, but what they've done something that I wouldn't normally do, and they've planted on ridges, and so I can see that as good drainage for when I sow the onion sets at the end of March, April, in case we have the rain continues. We do have resident foxes here, or a fox, and they don't cause us any trouble because we don't have chickens or anything like that here. Well, the only trouble they do cause me is when I put down chippings and they dig into the chippings, and I've had compost bags outside and they clawed into the compost. I don't know what attracts them, and in the summer you do see a lot of the green parrots and birds generally, but I'm not an expert on birds, so I can't talk about the different types that you see here. Wildlife, we do have rats, but they don't seem to bother me. They do go into the compost heaps, and mice, of course. The rats are coming from the brook. But they did used to get into my polytunnels that I had down there and chew on things, but I've not had trouble since. Squirrels do go for the sweet corn. They love it, and they did do quite a bit of damage on my wife's raised bed, and other people have complained about them. But it's one of those things you learn how to live with them. I covered sweet corn with netting, and so do other people. So you just learn how to live with things. As you cover brassica here with netting, whereas you see other people like Charles Dowding has these lovely rows of brassica uncovered during the season. We have to cover them the whole season because of the cabbage fly. So I don't know how he manages to do it. and not get cabbage fly and leave them uncovered, but you learn. This is broccoli. Doesn't seem like they're giving much out. Seem very strong. Maybe they still will, but it's getting late in the season. Got very strong stems. I suppose you could eat the leaves actually. Having said that, there's something called tree cabbage, and tree cabbage doesn't form a head, meaning that you cut like regular cabbage. You just keep cutting the top leaves, and it actually regrows over a number of years. It doesn't stop growing for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. I didn't grow it last year, but I thought I'd give it a go. And my other didn't grow last year, flat cabbage, but that germinate, or it's going to germinate, and it is flat like a Turkish cabbage, and it doesn't seem to get bothered by insects like other cabbage, nor does red cabbage. I wanted to mention the U3A, the Grow Your Own group. We had a very good meeting. There were 11 of us all together, from people who are just starting out to people who were experienced. One of them even has a raised bed on this site. But normally in the spring, summer, we meet here. But occasionally we go to people's gardens. In the winter, we tend more to meet undercover on Zoom. And also I run a WhatsApp group, which is very vibrant. People are constantly exchanging information, and you're invited to join the group and to join the WhatsApp group. This isn't about only me talking about how to do things, because I don't believe there's one way of doing something. I've got a way, but I'm constantly learning, and we can share our different ways. And I'm still searching after 30 odd years of growing vegetables. I'm still searching for ways, so I'm always ready to listen. And don't think because you haven't got a big garden or an allotment plot, you can also grow in plots, and that was mentioned at the meeting. Pots, boxes, you've got so many options, so please do come along.